Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Fulfilled Veteran podcast. I'm happy to introduce you guys to, or have them introduce themselves here shortly, but we've got Kyle, Andy, and Joe with us today. And before we get cranking here, so as you guys know, I self-sponsor so that, just like Tim Pool says, we can do our shit the way we want to do it and get our word out there the way we want to. So, of course, I and the other guys in the room here do other things. So I want to let you get to know them here shortly. We always want to talk about promoting things. It's funny, even my wife asked me today, she's like, hey, what's the theme of your podcast today? Well, the theme is always the first $5. So this is the reason why I'm doing the podcast. I've got a book deal with a publisher, and we're doing at least 4 books this year. And the first one is the most important, the first $5 for veterans to give. And we know it as being transition. That means you could be anywhere from still in uniform for years or a decade or whatever, and help you plan to get out the right way and do things fast, because all the fucks are F's. So like fast and financing and stuff like that. So family, faith, things like that. But the reason why I want to aim for fulfillment is I want you to do what you want to do quickly. And veterans like me and the other guys in the room right now, we're guys who want to push our service forwards, and we love helping people who need our help. So, to give you a heads up on who I am, and one thing that I've done is over the past 5 years, I have helped over 3,000 of my clients receive, and I work mostly with special operators and high caliber folks, so pilots and all that kind of jazz. So I've helped them receive anywhere from $3 to $5 million in their lifetime. That comes out to and that's from their, I call it veteran money. It's what they've earned, and the government hides it. And so that comes out to a family of 4 for a non-retiree like me. You should receive about $5,000 cash in hand from Uncle Sam every month. A retiree, even medically retired, should be about $7,500 a month for you, basic family of 4. And that's just the beginning of it. Property taxes, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that with, I know at least one of these guys does some real estate stuff. So, but you guys want to know the things that we know. And that's why we're here, is to help share that information with you. What I've learned over the past 5 years of me doing that, which, by the way, I've delivered over $10 billion to my clients now, and SEAL teams and Delta dudes are mine. Actually, I got a SEAL that's on my podcast next week. And one of my newest clients as of this week is a former '06 pilot who flew with the Blue Angels. So everything is about crisp, accurate paperwork with the government in order to get to your money. That's why there's a big check over my shoulder. You earned it. It's yours. Even a guy today was like, well, I'm not trying to cheat to this. And I'm like, man, that's what the government wants you to believe, that you're cheating something. You're cheating out your buddy. No, you're not. It's your money. The government doesn't want to give it to you, all that stuff. So we'll talk about that today. And like I tell all these guys, that if the government can print money, then why are you paying taxes? Because the government wants you to be poor and under their thumb. So, but the podcast is about positive stuff. So we want to push this forwards and go, hey, from our pain, learn from us. We don't want you to make the same mistakes that we have. And so I know a lot of you guys out there are silent professionals, and you're getting your emotional teeth kicked in right now, and you want to know about Andy and Joe and Kyle and what we've got going on and what we're doing, and join forces with us so we can help you get to where you want to be faster. So, all right, guys, that's enough for me thus far. I'm going to go around the room. Like I said, I'm going to ask you guys about a 1 or 2 minute story from yourselves. So look around the room to know a little bit about you. And we want to make sure that we give everybody enough time to have a quick introduction and then get deeper into stuff. So Andy was here first, so I'll turn the floor over to Andy. Andy, fire away. What'd you do in the service? What are you doing now?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. So I was in the Navy. I was an operations specialist, a former chief in the Navy. I was caught off guard at the 14-year mark with the ERB, intention or enlisted retention review board, where I was told that my services were no longer needed. So after moving around different places, food production, pharmaceutical, I found myself where I'm currently at, owning an ice cream and candy store.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Kyle, you're the second one in the room, and we do know each other, but tell us what's going on, man. What'd you do in the service? What are you doing now?
Hi, my name's Kyle. I was, what did I do? I was a heavy equipment mechanic, but I was smart, so I had to do smart people jobs. And I got to do like basically a plethora of different jobs while I was in the Marines. Learning, actually, I got to learn how to like blow things up. I was a part of like have you ever heard of the gender experiment they did in the Marines? I was a part of that. Well, I mean, I got
Gender experiment? Is that what you said?
yeah, gender experiment. They literally put men and women together, and when the men and women squads got together, it was apparently a total disaster. They just argued and bickered the entire time, which was kind of hilarious. But I got to spectate and watch them blow things up, and it was a fun time. Then tried out for special forces, and it was a really big eye opener. Fast forward, I tried going for psychology first when I got out to go to college. Then went to natural working like a personal trainer. I became I went back to try to become a naturopathic doctor. Couldn't pass chemistry. Tried going to becoming a Chinese medicine doctor. Wasn't going to pay 100 grand for that degree. Then found myself graduated right after COVID, and I became a posture therapist at that point. I feel like I've done a million things, and now I'm at my point. I'm at doing. I'm going to become a therapist for veterans, trying to help them out with PTSD and suicide.
And he also has great ideas that we're going to talk about today too. So I want to give that little put a pin in that one for a while. Joe, far away, man. Tell us about yourself. What you did in service, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I joined the Army after high school, age 17. I guess as a lot of little kids kind of wanted to be an astronaut. So I started off working in aviation. After 5 years, I ended up becoming a full-time combatives instructor and master fitness trainer. And so carrying on with the personal training, I got a background in human performance. But after almost 11 years, I decided to get out. One of the turning points that got me to get out was whenever I got stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado from Germany. I used my VA loan and I started investing in real estate, and that's what changed my whole career. Got out of the service, bought a real estate franchise, been riding ups and downs of business, and been in real estate. And then about 5 years ago, I scaled into financial services. So yes, Joe, you're real estate and financial pro.
And where are you right now, Joe?
I'm still in Colorado currently.
Oh, okay. What part?
Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I know Andy said is up in the woods of the Northwest.
Yep, we're up here on Whidbey Island, up in the San Juan Island chain. So can't get much further north without going into Canada. It's beautiful up here.
Very cool. That's why it's outdoors. Yeah. And Kyle, you said you're in Jersey, so
Yeah,
in his new home that he bought from his parents and stuff. So that's cool shit. Good stuff. So my very quick 2 minutes. I was Army as well, so I joined the Army in the late '90s and did some infantry time, enlisted over in Germany, and then got out, med boarded. Very similar time frame of reduction, right? Everybody was like, okay, get out. You want to get out medically? Okay, fine. So then that was 2000. 9/11 happened when I was in freshman year of college, and I tried to get into special forces. The Army opened up to 18 X-ray, tried to get in, got denied because I had tattoos that were still in regs, but for some reason the general didn't want me there. Then I went down. I was in Texas. I grew up in Texas, and went further down south to Houston to apply for a warrant officer position to fly, and because I didn't have to have a degree to do that, and they said we only have 2 jobs open, 10 people are applying. Come back next month. And if you don't make it next month, you can't come back for another year. And I was like, well, fuck this. I'm just going to go further down south to college. And I also wanted to finish college. That was just a personal goal of mine. So I went further down to Corpus Christi, Texas, and great RTC program there and small group and did good shit. And a couple years later, I got commissioned and they said, hey, you want to fly medevac? And I said, yep. If you're dumb enough to let me fly, I'll go out there and get shot at. And so I flew medevac over in Afghanistan for a long tour, did a bunch of combat missions, that kind of stuff. So that's how I got integrated with a lot of special operators. So we were around each other all the time. So that's how I started connecting with them through aviation and stuff like that, who became my clients. So, but yeah, so not to go in any order, anybody wants to chime in on this, but the reason why we're doing this is to make sure that we're letting our buddies know out there and our brothers and sisters know that you can start working on your passion early. I know, and we all know that the military doesn't really give two shits about your anything outside of you being a killer, and you do. I know you do, and that's why we're here to tell you that start working on it anytime while you're in service. Take that time to have one foot in your day job, whatever it is. If it's guard or reserve or active duty, or maybe you're out already or whatever, maybe you got 10 years left, maybe you've been out for 10 years, whatever it is. But if you've got a passion, go for it. I'll always tell my ranger story where I've got a client who's a ranger, did awesome shit, but he was E6, getting paid dog shit money in the government. And then he gets out and gets a very high paying job, 6-figure position with Amazon. And of course, he's happier because he's seeing a lot more cash in the bank, but he's not fulfilled. And he's like around the kitchen table telling his wife, and he's like, man, it fucking sucks, you know? We went from doing all this stuff every day. You eat, shit, shower, shave, and many other things with your buddy 24/7. And so you've always got this white noise of something happening, camaraderie, right? And then you get out and it's the silence. And all you hear is your fucking ears ring, like we all do. and that silence just creeps in, and you're not I don't want to call it you're not special anymore, but you don't feel special anymore. And that same guy told me, he said, man, PTSD is when you realize in the civilian world that you're not the badass you used to be. And I think all of us would start shaking our heads of, fuck, man, yeah, we all probably got out and thought, man, the world's going to just love me because I got my chest candy here and they're going to pay me big bucks to do awesome shit. And I've honestly not heard. Have you guys ever heard somebody go, oh yeah, man, I just landed the perfect job and everything went well and the magic wand has been waving around for years? But I've not heard that. So most of us get out and just kind of fall over and fall on our face. And I said this recently too, that the more you come out with bravado, oh, well, I'm a badass, I'm a Green Beret or whatever, and I can do all these great things. The higher up you put yourself, the further you're going to fall. And that's why we're here to communicate fast and go, hey, man, you know what? I hear you. Yes. Move your passion forwards. But it's going to be different. And whatever that passion is, like we know about if I can share a vision with you guys and see what your thoughts are on this. But we all know about Grunt Style, 9-Line Apparel, and Black Rifle Coffee Company, the big three. But Joe and Andy and Kyle and I, we are the next big thing. You're the next big thing. So what do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts on your transition and how to push your passion forwards?
I was gonna say something about even like the idea for your book, the first 5 fucks you should give. I think the first fuck should be to understand that you're a victim of acculturation. And acculturation is basically where you have your culture stripped from you and it starts to affect who you are as a person, essentially. I think hopefully I'm getting that right, essentially. And your first goal when you get out of any military branch you need to find a group of men or if you're a woman, probably one group of female veterans who will literally speak the same language as you, because you get out, nothing is like you get brainwashed. Shoes are go fasters, glasses are portholes, pens and ink stick, bathrooms ahead. It's like everything is completely blousers, trousers, like did I say blousers, whatever.
Yeah.
But it has taken me a long time to find a group of guys who I actually feel very comfortable with. And something we don't talk to veterans or even acknowledge to them, they are basically us. We're some of the most empathetic people on the planet. Tell me somebody else who is blindly willing to go and sacrifice their life for people they don't even fucking know. That's like the ultimate form of empathy. So we that's why I wanted to kind of caveat this into like the new thing that I'm thinking about doing, because I want to be able to do therapy and be able to do um a nonprofit call. They call it Vet in the Mat, where I want to eventually get my black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I want to be a teacher of this martial art, and I want to teach guys in the military or anybody, to be honest. I think men in general need like a support system right now, because I think we're hurting in America because we're always wrong and we're never right, or whatever you want. Paint your quote on in that section. And you do like 45 minutes of jiu-jitsu, and then you do an hour afterwards of like group therapy of where you vent on the mat. So you're venting. So it's I want to like it's
Have you heard of merging veterans and players? Have you seen this? Because they do something similar to that, and that's with high caliber veterans and also high caliber athletes. And if you look them up, it's called, you can look merging veterans and players, but they call it like mergingvetsandplayers.org or something like that. So merging veterans and players, and look them up. They're growing. Of course, they came out like right before COVID or something like that, and we're expanding. And I'm not sure where their headquarters is, but they're in multiple cities and states right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at their board is thick with badasses. Like, I don't know if Chuck Liddell, badasses in civilian world and in military. So like Green Beret, who one of the two founders, one of them is a former Green Beret who played in the NFL for a year, and same thing. He felt anyway, and then he got out and got felt away being Green Beret. Then he went in NFL. Then he got out of the limelight, and he's like, "Fuck, man, the silence is deafening." And the board is all kinds of what am I trying to think of? Like Hall of Famers and shit like that, like Chuck Liddell's and shit like that.
I'll look into
all
it.
Different levels of sport. But yeah, and a funny coincidence, since I'm bringing it up, is they have a therapy, and the reason why I'm bringing this up to Kyle too is the reason they have a woman, God, what's her name, Sarah or something like that, silver haired lady. She called me out of nowhere because she knows one of my clients, and I don't usually answer the phone out of nowhere. So I pick up the phone. She goes, "Hey, one of your clients sent me to you, and can we get a time to chat? Because I'm a therapist with these guys from merging veterans players." I said, "Yeah, sure." I think her name's Susie. That's what it is. So we get on the call, and I usually don't look up people, but I looked her up a little bit and called the guy who she had sent, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she's a badass, man." And the first line that she says to me is, "Hey Albert, just let you know who I am. So just for an example, I'm Snoop Dogg's therapist, and been working with Snoop and his wife for like 30 years or something, helped them through all kinds of stuff." And so anyway, we talked about a bunch of shit, but yeah, we talked for an hour, and she's like, "Albert," by the end of it, she's like, "Oh my God, man, this is like a master class on shit I didn't know." And that's what the civilians don't know about us, is that we are, like you said, Kyle, we do have that empathy. We are the guards, and we would give up our lives for the American dream, but now the American dream's being shit on by Americans. And I was even giving this example to my kids the other day, that there's good and there's bad. So there's a pyramid either way. There's good people, whether they're veterans, and at the top of the pyramid could be a pastor, could be a good-hearted person who has service in their heart, and they're doing any level of service, and they're good at their job, they're craftsmen, that kind of thing, because you have to have those people. But they're only the top 3%. Like everything we've got these days, I bet if I grabbed any item in this room, it's probably made in China, and it should be made in America by most likely a veteran who gives a shit, honestly, or some other craftsman who gives a shit. And there's a negative inverse to that too. There are horrible people out there. There are horrible people out there that we know exist, and we're like, "Oh, we're veterans. Thankfully we're separated by logistically." Is anybody from Afghanistan truly going to walk their happy ass across the world and come over here and fuck with us? No. But there's other entities that could, and that's where we're the ones that are on guard, and we need to be, like we'd say in the military, be, know, and do. Well, we do know better, and so we have to do better for ourselves. Without us, there is no American dream. So anyway, but back to Kyle on that you want to take that further or back around the room. Andy, Joe, thoughts on what Kyle and I said?
Yeah, Kyle, I think you and I have a lot of similarities. Chemistry also kept me from being a naturopath. Finding that after you leave and realizing that the culture, it's hard to change your worldview after having bought into it in the level you have to in the military. And there's some there's some great advocates for military mental health up here where I'm at. Been able to work with many of them, some of them from as far down as San Diego. Veterans Reintegration Resource Center. We have a mental health advocate here named Rachel who does some wonderful work with veterans. And one of the things that we kind of hit on in some of these conversations is, the exit from the military is so different from the entrance, right? When we first get into the military, there is that stripping of our cultures from different places. We're all sent to a shared location. We're all given the same. Everything is just completely structured, and then when it's time to get out, you're kind of walked to the front gate and said, "Hey, have a good day." And after enough time, it's almost like getting out of prison. The world is different, and even though we lived in that world, we walked outside those gates every day. We had our families. It's different. It was shocking to me the first time I went to a job interview, and I started my introduction with, I'm a chief in the Navy, and the guy looked at me and was just like, yeah, okay, thanks. I didn't understand that, right? And it was the only thing I'll say about it, the one thing where I think we as veterans sometimes could do better, and we have some great organizations, right? The VFW, the American Legion. These are wonderful organizations, and I enjoy being a part of them. But I think veterans also have to give themselves the space to find other groups, right? Like college. Fully immerse yourself in your college group. Fully immerse yourself in a local car club if you're into cars, because one of the hardest challenges is when you get out, not keeping the military as the central focus of your identity, because that's not you anymore. And it can be very hard to move in that direction. And so, that connection, that reintegration, until you're able to find some way to do that, being a veteran in a civilian world is one of the most difficult things you can do, and you're never going to replace that culture that you lost until you're able to do that.
That's why I use a term like, rather than reintegration, like you said, you can't really reintegrate, right? You're, like you said, it's like it's rather than being a transition, although that's the buzzword, it really is a transformation. You're not who you were 10 years ago. And like you said, Andy, you get out and it's like a fucking time machine. I went to Afghanistan in 09. Flip phones were a thing. I came back in 10 and everybody had like Androids, and we're like, fuck's an Android? So it was so weird. We're in this weird time machine, man. And you just come out going, what the fuck is all this cool shit now? So Joe, what's your experience with what we talked about?
Well, I mean, I've been out for a while now, going on 8 years. And I've had, those battles too, especially if you're a single guy with no family support. I felt like it was pretty extreme, but it's still just something that we have to adapt and overcome. And there are a lot of great organizations out there. Veterans just need to know where they are and what they do and how to leverage them. But I've been in, I've had similar experiences, being out by yourself, being kind of a loner, people not really being able to understand, and the camaraderie that you have in the military is something that, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've just never experienced it outside, for sure.
Yeah, I feel that too. I don't get my daily dose of dick jokes anymore.
Yeah, right. You have to subscribe for it. Dirty
Yeah,
military humor.
I find it really difficult, especially whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. We just, like, veterans, especially like you take a group of guys, combat veterans, we're just like really desensitized, to what we would consider small things, and yeah, the jokes, and next thing you know, I'm acting a certain way or joking a certain way around other people, and it's really kind of inappropriate. But
put your pants back
it's hard
on,
to get
Joe.
those.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was at a college fair, and I started talking to one of the Marines there, He literally told me a story about how he literally had to go and pick up this guy's foot after the Filipino like EOD guy stepped offline and got his leg blown off. So he had to shave the skin off the back of his calf because it had a picture, a handprint of or a footprint of his daughter's feet. And I'm like, is this like I'm like, this is not a conversation you have with anybody in the world. Like, you don't just talk about blowing off limbs and like laugh about it, no less. Like, and I God, I hope that doesn't come off as like crazy as shit, but whatever. But it's like something I think veterans can like. We all like have this very. We're very different people. Like we are, and it sucks that we go into a world that's all like that, and then we're expected to change when we come out. Like we're expected to be different and assimilate back to the way the rest of society is. And it's almost like I hate to say it's like not feels like it's not fair, but I mean, adapt and overcome. I guess. Like, what are you gonna do, right?
But I think way to, and this is a line that I'm adding to my language in my book stuff is, um, there's some financial stuff I want to help people with, get to their first $1 million in their business and first $1 million in their bank account. But maybe money isn't to everybody. Some people are more passionate and I want to lead 1,000 people to walk 1,000 miles or whatever your empire is. So that's what I was going to say. That's what I call it now. Is I want to help you create and deliver your empire quickly, because I like helping people who want to help others. And I know they want to help people fast. So I'm sure you guys hear this. I'm 43. Guys, how old are you real quick? Go around the room.
31.
I'm 43 as well.
36.
So we're all GY era guys. And you probably hear the older generation who's probably in their 50s and 60s say things like, well, once I get here, then I'll finally, like 5-10 years from now, that's when I'll be able to help other people. And I don't know if you guys are feeling the same that I do when I hear that, but I go, oh my God, why would you wait 5 or 10 years to help people? Well, if you want to help people, like, this is what I found out. This right here is my armor that I put on every single day. I call it my PJs. I get to wake up, get in my PJs and go to fucking work and deliver. Like just this week alone, or one guy that we celebrated Tuesday was a Navy SEAL that I helped him get from 40% up to 100%, and he received $3,100 more a month. And he's still not done. There's money out there for him still, other monies from that the government's hiding from him. But he got the big bucks first. Sometimes you guys get little bucks first, then we go after bigger bucks. Sometimes you get big bucks first, then we go after little bucks. But it is your money, and so that's what I help you guys out with, and to help you get your empire going. Because that's what even thankfully a young Marine, he said, he's like, oh, Albert's already helping me get my fucking empire going, and I'm a young dude. So think about it. With, let's just say, Black Rifle Coffee, you got two guys that came together. Matt Best, who's a badass and just like posting funny, silly shit that only guys like us understand. And then you got the other guy who's Green Beret, and he had some money that he was able to use. That was the government's money to buy coffee shit in foreign lands. And it's like, oh, this is my craft. Let me make it better. And they come together, and bam, boom, bam. A couple of years later, they're an empire. Everybody else in this room and everybody listening to this should be your own empire too. So there should be. My goal is that in the next 5 or 10 years, we're. I know right now they call it the MIC, the Military Influencers Conference. You may not know 3 or 4 people that are on there. That's it. But wouldn't you love to know that Joe is the Elon Musk of veterans, and that Kyle is the Donald Trump of veteran? Like, we want more. We need to be more of that. Like we were talking about this the other day with another one of my clients, that our founding fathers were business owners, and they were just well known. George Washington with this, and Franklin with this, and all that kind of stuff. We are that. We are that for right now. I want us to look back. I want people to look back and go 1,000 years from now and go, fuck, man. Andy and Kyle and Joe and Albert, man, they were doing some awesome shit, and glad I get to look back and see that. We have to like read a book and wonder what George Washington sounds like. Other people can look at us right now and get not just motivated, but know that they've got mentors. Oh man, I watched Andy's, and I really resonate with Andy, and now he's mentoring me. Fuck yeah, let's get it done. So, how did you guys start thinking about when did you guys start thinking that you were different as far as having an empire, like in service still or out of service, or tell me your story on that.
So, for me, I think from an early age, I mean, as far back as I can remember, I felt like I was different. I wanted something, right? And I think the biggest challenge was defining what that something was. What was success, right? When I was younger, it was I'm going to get out of the military and I'm going to make $1 billion and I'm going to jet around the world. And now here in my 40s, success is being able to go fishing on a Wednesday morning. Uh, it's being able to have a stop at a coffee shop and have breakfast with a friend or a buddy that just needs to talk. Well, I just got home last night. Actually, my wife bought a bus that we're going to turn into an ice cream truck, but that required me to drop everything, fly from Washington to California to pick up a 30-year-old bus and drive it back up the five. Um, and so being able to do that to me is now what I define as success, and I can work on my business and I can help my family and I can help those in my community. I've ran for local government. I'm one of our city's planning commissioners, and I'm not making a whole lot of money. I will certainly not be the next Black Rifle Coffee, but when I lay my head down, I finally, after 12 years of being out of the military, I see and feel that purpose that I felt every day when I was in uniform, and getting that back has been my definition of success. So, I think when we talk with veterans and we talk about, hey, what is your empire? I think one of the first questions we have to ask them is, what would you consider success when you build your empire? Because it's not going to be the same as the person standing next to you.
Joe Farley.
Can you kind of sort of ask your question one more time? You were asking like, when did we?
Yeah, when did you feel your empire? Like you knew, like Andy said, I felt different. Most people will say black sheep. You're probably a black, what do you call that? A black wolf in your family. Like I was so different. We always hear these stories. Well, I'm just a little old boy from North Carolina, and then you go, so is everybody. Everybody's some small something from somewhere. I mean, right? Everybody's got to be born. I'm just the son of the mother. Yeah. So
Yeah.
is Kyle. So is Andy. So you figure out yourself and you start moving forward.
I don't know if I ever felt like I had it all, because it's just like, there's always more. There's always more ways to scale, more ways to grow, more ways to get better, more ways to have a larger impact. But I think there was some pivotal moments in my career. I came from very, very humble beginnings. I was born and raised in Central Alabama, and I grew up on a farm. My mom had me when she was 15. And I joined the Army to get my education paid for. And while I was in the service, I was working in the Army, working a lot. And then when I had a little extra time, I was, on the phone growing a real estate portfolio, constantly getting in a position where I was constantly buying, selling, and or refinancing properties. And that started getting me a step ahead. I had a big step up whenever I got stationed at Fort Carson from Germany, because it was the first time in my career that I got a housing allowance. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I leveraged my VA loan, and just what changed my whole trajectory was using my VA loan and purchasing a multifamily income producing property. So I got myself in a position where my housing costs were nearly zero, or I even cash flow maybe $100 a month, and I was making a housing allowance. That right there was a step up. And then after I bought my first property, a few months later, I bought another one, and a few months later, I bought another one. It started this whole snowball effect, and that's one reason that I started considering getting out of the service, because I'd already been in the service a decade. I got out just like 9 days short of 11 years, and I was planning on going all the way. And I was literally like, some people consider me the poster boy for the Army. I did all the right things, and then when I got out, I thought, being very confident, I thought that by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be this multimillionaire traveling the world and doing all types of great things. But as you guys already know, if you've been in business for a while, it's a roller coaster, and you have to adapt and overcome. And the higher you go, the higher the falls. So I bought a franchise, and it was like my first year out of the service was so hard and so stressful. It was one of the hardest years of my life because, again, I had this expectation where, no one's going to outwork me. I was working on my MBA and doing all the right things to grow a wildly successful business. Got tangled up with, not the right group of people. The business went down. It was a very, very rough year, and you just stack a couple of losses on that with tenants and contractors. But something I learned is that success can be like literally the neighbor to what some people consider failure, but you can't fail if you never give up. And what I've seen in business is that so many people give up and fold so quickly, or they just can't consistently stick with it. And so I had to go get another job. I wasn't planning on doing that because I told myself that when I got out of the service, I would only work for myself. And if I did get a job, it would be something I enjoyed. And I became a college instructor for a little while. And I did that for about a half a year, and I got my business back on track. And then it took off. I grew a wildly successful business for several years, scaled across state lines and even country lines. And yeah, so like then there was just another step up whenever I started making, money that when I was in the military, what took me a year, whenever you make that in a month, that's a huge improvement. And then scaling and doing things overseas that I never thought I would do. But I guess to answer your question, the success thing is whenever I first got here, I was still in the Army, but I was doing real estate on the side, doing that. That was my side hustle. I got out, full focus, full effort at real estate, took a big dive, lost, all my savings, deployment money, everything. And then the very following year was like my best year ever. Made more money than I ever had. And I really rode a wave way up. And then the second one, like I said, is whenever I was making what used to be my yearly salary in a month. That's when I started feeling what I think success, and I had a lot of momentum going in the right direction.
If I could say a line, because you made me think of it, and I think it would be helpful to the group and everybody listening, that that believing in God, that the closer you get to God, the more the devil shows up. And so, like Joe said, and others will confirm that when you're getting your when you go through these experiences and you know who you are, that's like, to me, that's Jesus and God talking through you. Like, that's your path. Go do that path. And I like to talk about abundance because it could be heart paychecks, or I think money is fake anyway. You just move money around, and I moved a lot of money around just yesterday. And like Joe said, I mean, I've made more than a year's salary sometimes in a day now. And it's like, holy fucking shit. I never thought I'd move chunks of money like $98,000 from one thing to the next, but I'm doing it. I mean, I made Kyle doesn't know this, but we made $1 million in about a 7-month period in my business. And I've made, what I knew was I was a quote good sales guy for other people as a contractor, and I was making other companies $2 million a year on me selling. And I was like, why the fuck am I going to sell somebody else's shit when I can do my own shit? And you, as a bell curve of like, here's where you are, and then it climbs up and then it comes back down, right? We're going to talk about that a lot in our chat, I'm sure. But like, once you get to the top, whether it's years or experience or education or certificate, whatever it is, the easy way, preferably we'd like to try to guide you through the easy way as opposed to getting a bunch of degrees that don't make any fucking sense to you. That's why we're here to talk to you. I saw Joe's flash. So we can talk to you about all that. But like, if you just do what God wants you to do, the devil's going to start showing up, pulling your fucking leg. And so that's why I've got 4 books in the works right now. So the first one's the 5 bucks, right? The one that's over my, that shoulder right there. There we go. You can't really see it very well, but that's about the who you are in the it's behind my head. There we go. But you can't really see it. But just to give you a glimpse, it's It's about you. It's about listening to yourself in that napkin and turning it over, going, okay, if that's the plan, if that's the dream, how do we plan it? And how do we break that up into chunks that if I want to be a doctor, I obviously have to do X, Y, Z to get there. And like Joe mentioned, people are going to be horrible around you. And if you are a high level thinker and a high level doer, I even had my son do this the other day. I said, hey, go ask Alexa what the opposite of a procrastinator is. I've got 5 kids. So everybody knows what a procrastinator is. What's the opposite of that? We don't know the word. There are words to describe them, a planner, a thinker, a doer. But I think everybody in the room and everybody listening would go, man, if you're that black wolf, you know you're different, like Andy said. You know you want to be part of something bigger. But man, have you gotten a lot of shit from people who are really close to you? And anybody out there will instantly negate. And a woman asked me the other day, again, I'm 43, but she said, how did you get to where you are? And I said, 43 years of experience, 43 years of being me and all the shit I've been through. And I said to many people that I've been told no by the military and by other government agencies. I've been told no more times than an ugly prostitute, man. So all you have to do is just keep doing good things. And I tell that to all my staff, my kids, anybody who I can sit in front of, do good things every day, and it stacks up. And then you look back and go, holy fuck. I'll give you an example. A nonprofit sent me just 50 veterans. Now all those veterans are 100% permanent and total, like me. Minimum $3 million in their lifetime. If they're non-retired, $5,000 a month. If they are retired, $7,500 a month. And that's just first level cash in hand. Another client of mine calls that the long scratch on a slow scratch on a long lottery ticket. So I delivered in 50 people $160 million. That's just 50 fucking veterans. How many veterans are out there? The Army kicked out alone after COVID 200,000. You're out. 200,000. And those are just for the people who didn't get shots. So for guys like Joe and us who have gotten out on like the projected path, other people who've been put through hey, I wanted to stay in longer and maybe I got hurt, maybe the drawdown, I got kicked out or whatever. If they didn't plan on it, if they were still on their way up or maybe even on their way down, they still got booted. And it's a pressure cooker. So they even got shoved out. Like I've got clients who were drafted from the 60s and 70s, their Vietnam era. I've got guys that were from our era that were stop lost. And then they get back home from a deployment and then they go, okay, well, you can go now. I've got a client who was on one of the Green Beret teams. And he fell and he's hurt. He got hurt 9 months later. He was not on the street, but out of the service. And he's like, fuck, man. Like I was on one of the teams. I was doing, or one of the groups, and we're kicking down doors and doing shit. 9 months later, they're not answering my phone call. Why? Because the military doesn't care. The military has to keep moving forwards. So doesn't matter how special you are. Somebody's going to kick you in the fucking teeth and ruin your day. Keep moving forwards. Have like we've said thus far, have small groups. Have somebody to fucking lean on who gets you. And as soon as they start naysaying on you, get away from them. If they make you feel heartburn, my only heartburn now is, thankfully, I'm going to bring this back to a positive. I only allow myself to be around positive people. I've learned my lesson. I've got a horrible ex-wife. If I want to rattle somebody's fucking cage, I'll go talk to her ass. But outside of that, like staff members, clients, right? We're all in business. So clients, if you're going to try to be a dick to me, you're not going to be around me very long because I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and it's abundance. And so my only heartburn when I go to bed or wake up in the morning is I know there's so many more veterans out there that I want to help. And I'm not like Andy. I'm not running or on I've been on boards and committees, but never ran for an office. But I have 2 podcasts, and I'm always doing. So 24/7, this is moving. 24/7, this is moving. So I put my armor on every day. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on what we talked about thus far?
The whole I've always like this. It sounds crazy, but feel like I've always felt like I was special. Not in the certain kind of way, you know. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
a Marine.
Short bus kind of way.
We don't eat too many, things, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
That's why you did join the Marines, though, chewing on some crowns.
yeah, my crayons are the sharpest though, so don't you forget that, Albert.
Yeah.
Um, just always kind of knew like I was better than what I was giving in life, and got pretty depressed after I got like my school ranking in high school, and led to me getting into a fight with my father the next day I joined the Marine Corps, and it really gave me my first sense of like knowing that I felt like I could do anything was I put in the work to try out for special forces, and like even my foot got infected. I literally couldn't walk anymore on it. And they didn't catch it fast enough if they gave me antibiotics, if they knew what it was, I would have probably been totally fine. Um, but that like going through 3:30, 4 o'clock morning sessions 5 days a week and 6 o'clock on Saturdays. I did that for like 6 months straight and never missed a day. It was like I wanted it more than anything. And when I got there, I saw the results. Everyone was there, was like complaining. Like everyone was like, "Oh, I didn't get 20 pull-ups. Oh, I didn't do good on the ruck." And I'm like, so the workout and stuff you were bragging about really didn't like work out or anything like that. And I didn't tell anybody what I did workout wise. Like I ran around with a 12-pound sledgehammer all the time to like simulate a rifle, and everyone thought I was crazy for doing that. And then like you had to carry a fake rifle with you in for special forces, and it was light as all day. Um, Fast forward to now, I feel like myself, like I just want more out of life. Like I think like I if I could share my business ideas, like I have like two businesses that I want to do. I have a couple things that I want to patent eventually. Um, I have three books that I want to write. Um, and I kind of started saying to myself, like, why not me? Like, there's people who do more than that in their lifetime. It's like, why can't I do this stuff? And I was like, I don't know if you're into the whole, Andy, you're into the whole like holistic thing. Like, I think in America, we tell men, if you want to feel your emotions and you want to cry, go in the woods and do it by yourself. Women, if you're on your period, go to mom and you shut the fuck up because no one wants to hear about that shit. And I think like we literally all like somehow just shame each other for some of the most vulnerable points of our lives. And I want to create this like holistic women's period box because I've just gone on this whole holistic cleanse and realized there are so many things in makeup and like all these like lotions and shampoos, like shampoos literally if they have I think sodium lauryl sulfate in it, stop using it because it is literally just destroying your hair. I don't think sodium lauryl sulfate is, I'm pretty positive it's used to make antifreeze. um and we literally put all these toxic, poisonous things in our shampoos and like our everything. And women are like so susceptible to all that because it's like it's a big competition, and like, and whether women want to admit it or not, like they're in a competition to look the prettiest. And it's like you have to buy this makeup, buy these products, and it's like also like just birth control in general like destroys hormonal birth control, like just destroys a woman's body. And like we don't really, like, you go on birth control for 11 years and you're like, I don't know why I can't get pregnant afterwards. Well, you just told your body for 11 years not to do this. Like it's, and I think like I'm single right now. I very much care about women, and I want to be able to like start caring about our women and show them that, like, because I think a big thing in America now is, we wouldn't have this whole big woman uprising if men actually knew how to take care of women and actually did it in a kind, compassionate way without controlling them. I think they would be. I really don't think like if the right guy came to you and told you I really care about you and I really want to do this and this for you, I really just don't think there'd be any woman who would be like, no, like I just. And yeah, I mean, we have a few crazy people out there, but who knows? Like, so like I want to make this like monthly holistic women's period box so that women, it's called it's called your box. Um, so we can all like connect on a subject that we're not really allowed to talk about, or we're excluded from the conversation. And also like I think if we're also like, we're excluded from that conversation. If you also look at it too, we're also kind of excluded from almost the fathering. We have zero reproductive rights. We like, I want to be a father, and like I want to be able to, like, be in my kid's life, but it's like there's things out there where if she doesn't want to have a kid, like it's just not happening. Like it's I have no say on it. Um and it's just like upsetting to me as like there are shitty men who have created a narrative where we're not able to like really do what real, and I call it now, when women complain about men do this, men do that, they're this, they're that, this, like, no, you're talking about boys in men's clothing. And I think it's very I think a lot of men are hurting just as much as women. There's no one, and I'm not sitting here saying men have it worse or women have it worse. I want people to start realizing that we need to come together, and maybe it starts with having a conversation about like your monthly time. Maybe it starts about like, you know, a father going like, I really want to spend more time in my kid's life and show care. I want to learn how to make pancakes. Like it's like showing them that it's okay to be a like kind, compassionate man, because I think that's where we all need to drive towards. We need to all try to become more kind and compassionate towards each other and just understand each other. I think everyone in the world wants to be understood. We want to feel like we're important in somebody's lives. So let's go ahead and try and give that to everybody. So it's like, I don't know, I have that, and then my Vet in the Mat nonprofit that I want to make, and then I have a short story book that I want to make called 11 Stories of You. I have a book I call it "What the Fuck is Love," because I think we're all like throwing this word love around, and we really don't have necessarily the vocabulary to really describe what's really going on, or the philosophy too, in my opinion. And then my third book I want to write is called "Before You Say Goodbye." It's a book about suicide, because I think I don't know if you know this about veteran suicide. If you were to raise the entire population of the veterans to the amount of the entire United States, so it's about like 364 million people in the United States. If the veteran population was 364 million people, 100,000 people would kill themselves a year. From that, that's like how many people would die if the veteran population was the equivalent of the United States population. So it's like, I think, and there's that one guy who jumped off a bridge and like lived, and he got like held up by a seal or something like that. Like he said like the moment he jumped, he knew he immediately regretted it. And I want to basically be like, hopefully this book will like, I'm just asking for one person. I'm asking God for one person that like, you came into my life and this book made me not kill myself. Like that kind of like because I think veterans, you have so much to give, and we just need to learn how to rebrand you as a person, and you can basically do anything, dude. Like you went through some of the toughest shit, and it's like, but we don't tell people about the hidden wars, the mental wars when they get out. And that's like, I think the biggest thing we need to like prepare veterans for. And like that's why like I'm trying to like do everything I can in the future to be an advocate for men's mental health, like veterans mental health, because we need it, and there's not a lot of guys in my field. And I think being a veteran and being, I didn't go to like Afghanistan or Iraq or anything like that. I wasn't there when Kyle Carpenter got blown up by a grenade. I wasn't there when, Albert went to, Afghanistan. I wasn't there when one of my buddies who's counter intel went to Afghanistan. But the thing is I can be here when they come back. I can be here when they come back, and I can help them with their struggles. I can help them with, that's why I went to like India and did this whole like meditation spiritual thing. And I really want to bring something like that to people where you feel like you're actually being healed. Like something is working. In the United States for now, your options are pills, therapy, and surgery. Pick one, fuckface. Like, and it's kind of like, there's no other options. And I want to be able to give people an option that, works for them. So
I will say that's growing a lot more though. Speaking of like holistic stuff, and so you made me think of a couple of things I want to reiterate back to Kyle that in the group that thankfully, information flow is a lot faster. Like, I feel really bad for anybody prior to the internet age to not know the stuff like Kyle's showing you receipts of here's these studies and those studies. And we have so much information flow now that for people who want to have a receipt that goes, hey, here's a study on such and such, you're able to deliver it. So Kyle, I definitely need to get you connected with my book publisher, Trevor. And so don't let me forget that. Text me about it later. I'll get you hooked up with him. But man, I mean, there is such a need for just the American dream to happen. And that's why part of my book series too is to help them. And I now am doing coaching too of, like, I call it my $1,000 video. For $1,000, I'll give you some life-changing information. Obviously, I want you to keep moving forwards and motivate you and give you a plan on how to do that and either get your business going or growing. And if you're starting to grow and you're making good bucks like Joe and etc., then you start partnering. You get to a point where you want to partner with other people. And that brings me back to Kyle's point of there are badass SEALs and Rangers and MARSOC who are connecting with holistics out there. So there's a guy, and he's not my client, but I've seen him on a couple of things like TV shows and stuff like that. And he's a real goofy looking dude, but I think he was SEAL Team 6. And I've been to a lot of conventions and stuff like that. I highly recommend that veterans go to conventions. I think maybe NRA may be a little too big sometimes. Go to it and check it out. It's a lot of veterans, it's a lot of guns, it's gigantic, but the smaller, more intimate stuff like special operations or Ranger event or something will allow you to see that there are badasses out there connecting. Badass, like I said, there's top tier people. Let's call it, you got the tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, right? Well, there's tier 1 and tier 2 level killers and also healers that are in the room. They want to help. Like us guys right now, we're talking about, here's who I am. I'm a man who's been in combat and I'm a warrior. I don't want to call it a killer, but I'm a warrior, whatever. Well, there's also somebody who is a badass lawyer and has never served in the service. Their service may be through other ways. And we have to be able to connect with them. So that's why I say merging vets and players is good. There's another one out there you guys would want to know about. I'm not connected with them in any way yet, but I'm trying to get them on my podcast, which is Elite Meet. And they connect badass Green Berets and MARSOC and stuff like that to corporate level jobs and the C-suite, to introduce them, to get to know each other on a personal level first, and know that we do as veterans have a good grit, that we do know how to lead, we know how to communicate. We may have horrible jokes sometimes, but we're very, like Kyle said earlier, very empathetic. We do want to serve. We do want the best for everybody, but yeah, we're gonna say fuck a lot. So just, I don't say get used to it, but things like that. But it does take us being able to say, hey, here's my specialty, here's my craft, and I can help you out with money, and Joe can help you out with a house and many other things. Andy can help you with your sweet tooth, and Kyle can help you out with your period box and many other things. But we have to be able to know who does what, right? Like that's what my third book is about, is small teams doing great things. We have to be able to communicate with each other and know through our partnerships that Andy is in Washington and Kyle is in Jersey and Albert's in Indiana. And Kyle's book is this, and Joe's reaches that, like Joe's talking about, reaching over state lines and even international borders. I'm curious to know what that is. I've got clients all around the world, so I'm curious to know what that is. So, and Andy, I mean, having a sweet tooth, I mean, he may be able to send you something in a foreign land that you're like, oh my God, this is a home, and that's what we want to feel. So there's unfortunately, the government is horrible and they don't do anything. I'm just going to say it broad brush. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. That's fine. You can have your opinion, but I can have mine too. But the government's horrible. If the government can print money, why the fuck are you paying taxes? If the government wanted to help veterans, they would help veterans. You're all worth money. The government's not paying you. It's the government's fault, not your fault. So, and the government's hiding it from you and lying to you. So that's what's even worse is you talk about psychology. I've got a neuroscience master's degree, and it's about who you are inside of yourself. And so I know how your brain works, and the government is lying to you and gaslighting you. And I think that's the weirdest war. I think the the war on us veterans, and like Kyle said, on us men. I've got 10 years of a horrible ex-wife, and there are bad systems everywhere that are, again, I think money's fake, but it moves mountains. And the crazy divorce rates, like why are we giving ourselves over to a government that we created a country to be small government, but yet even whatever 5 years ago was when I last heard this stat was Texas divorce court stuff is $35 billion a year industry. No shit. I heard this from the stage. I don't know if you guys knew this from when Donald Trump ran the first time for president. He was on the stage with Jeb Bush. And although I think a lot of us may have been fans of the Bush family, like, oh, 9/11, let's go fucking do cool stuff and whatever. Let's protect our country. Then you find out that's all fucking bullshit. But Jeb Bush from the stage said, he said, "Hey, as governor, I raised money in households, single home households for women." And Trump goes, "How?" He says, "How?" Like the moderator doesn't go, "How?" Trump says to Jeb, "How'd you do that?" And Jeb goes, "Well, I raised child support from the dads." Anybody else a dad who's had their ass ripped out? Me. Systems are fucking corrupt. So my positive point, if all of us warriors know this, isn't it our duty to be the change? I challenge you with that. So that's why I'm glad Andy's running for office. And that's what I learned from being in Afghanistan. I'm not going to save the world by flying medevac missions thousands of miles away. I need to be where my kids are. I need to be at my kitchen table. And am I a perfect guy? No. Am I going to say I'm ever perfect? No. I'm aiming to be better. So I'm a sinner and I know it, and we all know it, but like, I just want to connect with my people, and these are my people. You're my people. Big government isn't my people, but what I do like is that we've got more congressmen and senators and etc. that do have lapel pins that me and you guys know what it looks like and what it means. And they may not be perfect people either, but at least it's fucking something. At least it's something. So let's take our fucking country back. Like how if America is a castle, if the American dream is a castle, doesn't matter the borders of it. Because we could bleed up into Canada someday, Mexico someday. I mean, the world's going to change. The borders are going to change. But if the American dream is something that we all love and adore, and it's in us, we know it is. At what point, since we're the ones who are that are standing guard, when is it our fault? So bringing it to a bit of a reality check of when is it our fault? When do we become the next push forwards? And I think we're the very, very tip top of a very small amount of people who are badasses that can get shit done at giant fucking levels. But at the same time, there's an inverse to that, right? There's evil people, and they've got trillions of dollars to fuck with us and get in our way. And they're doing it. I mean, I've got a 3-star Navy guy who's my client, and he's the same equivalent of he was for the Navy. Who am I thinking of? Army General 3-star that it's like fucking NSA director or some shit like that, or not. That's not what he did. But what's his name? Fucking hell. Anyway, but now they were trying to go after him and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's fucking gross, man. You're going after. I'm not saying a 3-star general, whatever, but we now know that it was corrupt as balls. And I mean, Trump's going through all the shit that he's going through, and I don't put any one person on a pedestal. That's not my place, not my religion. But there's these really good people, and it shows. They're godly, and that the devil is aiming at them big time. So expand on that, guys.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You can go, Andy. I'm sorry.
I like how all three of you went off mute. That's exactly why I said that.
Yeah, I think I heard Mike Tyson say this, if God favors you, then the devil favors you too.
Yeah.
And if that's what I'm kind of going through right now, I'm kind of I haven't been in a great mental state. I'm very just upset with I'm in a transition phase too, because I'm about to graduate with my master's degree, and I just don't know what's going to happen next. And it's honestly, it's kind of it's kind of scary because it's like I have to pass this test in April. I have to do a bunch of different things to like get like my therapy thing like on the ball. And I would be lying to you if I'm not like a little scared. It's just like I don't know. I don't know about the future, you know. So I guess like you know my biggest thing about like what you just said is be the person you see yourself being all the time. Like I see myself speaking in front of people all the time, honestly. And I'm starting to try and have more faith that it's like if you just my friend tells me if you trust in God and you just follow the path that he has set for you, then um everything will probably become better than you ever imagined. Like, and I also, like, I just, like, think I'm living proof of that as well. Like, I could have never told you at 31 years old, if you talk to my 18-year-old self, if I all the stuff that I did, like, he would be like, "You did what? You're doing what? You're doing" he went to India, you went to this, you went here, you did that, you did this. I have, like and that's where I'm, like, struggling right now is, like, meeting people is hard because a lot of people, like, just are mediocre, and it's like when you finally find somebody, it's like they have to be like a match you. They have to match who you are as a person, or like you just kind of get sucked into mediocrity. And it's like it really is like it's like it's the want the need to feel accepted is so great, and people just get sucked into that all the time. Like I definitely think I have, and uh, it's it's good to know that there's, like, other people, like-minded people because I can tell you, like, the journey to the top is, like, usually pretty lonely. Like, a lot of people, like, really aren't there for you and don't have the time, um, and I think you have to go through that phase to really, like and I think the reason why we celebrate people who are like the Elon Musks or, Steve Jobs, reason why we celebrate these people is not because of, like, the stuff that they do, but it's the journey of discovering who they truly are. My favorite philosopher says there's no possible way for a human to get better. You can't get better. Because if you say, I need to get better, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, it implies you're in lack of something. And if you believe in God, then you've already been given all the tools you need. You just need to become who you are. And I think like what that means is getting stuff out of your pathway, you know, and stuff that like sometimes you got blinders on, you can't see crap, man. Like you can't see anything. And I really think that that's the hardest thing to do is to train yourself to start seeing stuff that is messing up your life and realizing if you want to go and see like there's this the saying goes, if you want to see who's like the root of all your problems, go look in the mirror. Because like you are probably the reason why a lot of your things in your life are going wrong. And it's even hearing that you're like, yeah, oh yeah, I could believe in that. It's like me trying to do that. It's like it's very hard to look who you because even when you look at who you are and you think who you are in the mirror, is it's an obscured version of yourself, and, like, I can guarantee you people don't think about you the way you think about you, and, yeah, I just think that people need to we need to stop, like, just being, like, so hard on ourselves, and I think, as a veteran, like, I hear a bunch of other dudes who are like, "I feel like I gave up my country, I feel like I gave up on this, gave up on that." It's like, "No, you didn't." Like, you put your time in, you did more than 1% of the United States joins the military. You've done more than 99% of people in their entire lives will. If you went over to, you went over if you go overseas, more than like half the United States has never even been out of their like freaking state. That's a lie. I don't know exactly what that is, but just saying stuff basically at this point. But like it's like people don't realize like veterans, I think specifically don't realize it's this very weird world of, like, I think I'm the shit, and I think I'm kind of nothing at the same exact time. It's a very weird world we
Yeah.
live in as veterans. I really, like I don't really get it, but I feel as though that's kinda like what we go through, is we think we're, like we think we know, we get told the rhetoric, and yet somehow they're like, I'm a piece of shit really inside. And it almost for me, it makes me feel like I need to rise to the occasion. And I don't know about anybody of you guys, but I feel like that's kind of like how a lot of things go.
That's what I tell my clients. It's like, hey, I know you're going through a hard time right now or whatever. I want to stop your descent into madness or other suffering. And I'm not here to make everything all better. You know, I'm not your mom. I can't kiss away your boo-boos. But what I can do is stop your descent and get you back on track and get you elevated again and get your money in your pocket, give you clarity, show you the plan, show you how we're going to get there, show you other case studies that I've delivered millions of dollars to, stuff like that. And that's what you have to do. You just have to be able to go, all right, Kyle, let's talk about this. Let's you and I talk, or Andy, let's you and I talk about this. And that's why I invited Kyle personally to be on the show. And he's in my calendar for next week for a book interview too. So that's what I do, which by the way, I forgot to mention that for Andy and Joe. I definitely want to interview you guys for my books too, because for one of my books, I interviewed almost 100 veteran business owners. And the more we get to know each other, the more it's top of mind I think of bees and flies, and I'll tell you the better analogy of that maybe later on. But bees are communal and they have a purpose, and flies just eat shit for 6 weeks and die. So, but us bees, we need to know about each other and be able to go, okay, we're all needed in an ecosystem, right? You need flies to eat shit. I get it, but Andy, you don't need to eat shit. You're looking for community, and where is that community? So. Is it tying in with Joe and his partners? Is it tying in with Kyle and his partners? Tying in with me and my partners? Probably. And that's one of my pushes now that I've grown my business as far as it is. That's why I'm doing the podcast and many other things is I'm at that point where I've proven myself to not only myself, like Kyle mentioned, but to other people. I deliver a lot of money to you guys. And now I want to be able to partner with everybody, have you guys on my website, me on your website, that kind of stuff, and get the news out there faster so we can all help our brothers and sisters more intentionally. So just wanted to put that pin in there. But Joe and I see Andy coming off mute. Fire away, brother.
Thank you. There's a lot there. I want to say right now, there's probably somebody listening to this podcast that this is their first day as a veteran, right? And we're all giving snapshots of where we're at, but what people don't see is the journey, right? They don't see the ups and downs. It's not a linear process, right? And everybody is going to face challenges, and those challenges that we face individually are the biggest thing we face, and they may seem small to other people, but to us at times they might feel like they're insurmountable, right? This has been a 12-year journey for me, right? And it hasn't been it hasn't always been easy. The first, one of the things that I always tell my kids is that passion and perseverance precede prosperity, right? You've got to have your passion, you've got to persevere because it's not going to be easy. Prosperity is going to follow. But when you're first getting out, when you're first in that transition, that can be hard to see. And, like as I was listening to you talk and you talk about the period box, there's a great organization called I Support the Girls that help women that are in period poverty get the supplies they need. So, I mean, I'd love to connect you with them. I think you guys could do some great work together. I think, for me, I've had more short starts and failures and downs than successes if I were to look at those numbers, but I don't need everything to be a success. Where I'm at now and I'm able to help people now, I had to learn to be selfish. It was something military doesn't teach you, right? You're not selfish, but you have to learn that it's okay sometimes to be selfish. It's okay to carve out an hour a day and say, I'm going to go work out and this is my time and I'm not going to let things interrupt it. I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb. I'm going to focus on me, whatever that looks like. I did a project a few years back that I thought was going to be great. I called it the Man Formation Project, right? And I did a lot of the things you talked about masculinity. And what it was just a 30-day program where every day I talked to another man. I read a book about manhood, masculinity, and then I sat and reflected. And then each day I wrote down a mantra for that day. So at the end of the day, I had 30 mantras that I could go back over the course of the year about what my definition was. And when I shared that with people, that's too much work. I'm not going to go through all that. I'm not going to do that. That's just way too much, right? So it's kind of just been something that was for me, but I needed that, right? And I needed the failures that I've had to get to where I'm at. You know, there were times where I was not emotionally, mentally there. I've hurt the people that I care about the most over the last 12 years. I've done things that I'm not proud of. I've played with people's emotions because I had needs myself. Uh, but being able to tell somebody that is where I was 12 years ago or where you were when you got out, you know, this this is where you are now. It's not where you're going to be forever. It's part of your process. It's okay. We can walk through it together. And I think it goes a long way in helping with some of those mental uh, challenges and mental health that you're referring to. And when we're able to be a little bit selfish and introspective and help ourselves first, it's kind of like that airplane mask, right? We naturally become able to help others around us. And then as we approach that with positivity and we approach that with, this is a journey, we start finding that other veterans want to gravitate towards us. They want, because we're actually doing the things that they're hoping to achieve, right? We're not just talking about it, right? We're not just saying, oh, I'm going to be successful, but we're still sitting on the couch, right? And so when people listen to the podcast, when people speak with us, or when people um, see this journey, it's inspiring to them to get off that couch, right? And they just have to realize that for all of us, this just didn't happen yesterday. We didn't wake up yesterday where we are, and we're not going to wake up tomorrow where we are today. And so that ability, as you go forward, I think it's inspiring, and I appreciate you sharing all the things that you're doing, because they are. I don't have another word for it. It's inspiring to hear all the things that you're doing. So thank you.
Good stuff. Appreciate that, Andy. Joe, fire away.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a lot to unpack, but I appreciate that, Andy. But what did you say? Passion plus perseverance precedes what?
Prosperity.
Anyways, he brought up some good points, because Albert, earlier you said something that really resonated with me, and even though it's literally the opposite of what I say, but it's really the same principles. Earlier you talked about you wanted to help people who want to help others, which is a very noble thing to do. And maybe it's because of my experience in, let's say, real estate and financial services. I work with a lot of self-employed, independent contractors who are in a position to grow wildly successful businesses. And I usually say, I'm anxious. And I really want to help people who want to help themselves, which sounds very selfish, but just as Andy was saying, the first person you got to help is you and your family. That's the priority. If you ain't taken care of, how you going to take care of someone else? And we were talking about, someone mentioned about, in the military, like selfless service. Something I always talk about is we need to owe our fiduciary duties and have selfless service to our future selves, i.e. like where do we want to be? Where do we want to go? And prioritize doing what we need to do now to get us to where we want to go. And that is just something I want to mention about selfless service, and then having that fiduciary duty to our future selves and our future goals. I really like what he had mentioned. Passion plus perseverance precedes prosperity. Something I've always had a bottleneck with in my businesses, and it's typical, is statistics. Like even in real estate, over 80-something% of agents fall out of the business in the first 5 years. And real estate can be a very lucrative and a great business to be in, but majority of people fail in it. And perseverance and consistency is just something I've seen that's hindered a lot of people in growing their own successful businesses. I wrote down a lot of stuff. I just wrote down, there's no strength without struggle, because just as Andy was saying, you can see the the highlight reel. You know, we can talk about, oh, we did this, we had this many sales, or we got this successful business, but people don't see on the back burner like this, the how much crap we had to go through and persevere through. And Alex Hormozy is someone I kind of look up to, and he talked about how whenever you're in those positions, understanding, you know, this is hard, this is what hard feels like, and this is why most people don't make it, and because they quit at that point. So there's no strength without struggle. I also was writing down how, you know, there's no advancement without adversity. And then one more thing, just to help unpack, because I know, Albert, you mentioned some education. Kyle mentioned some education. And me personally, that was a big part of my identity being in the military. I literally worked and went to school from 6 to 31. Didn't matter how much I was working, I was still going to school. And so I was able to get out of the military with several degrees, all these certificates, a whole lot. And I used to take a whole lot of pride in that. But now, as I've gotten older and gotten into business, that stuff's not quite as important to me. And in hindsight, truthfully, if I could go back, instead of spending all that time, energy, and money and getting traditional education, I would have took all that time, energy, and money and really just focused on my business and being in a position to have a larger impact and have a much larger positive impact on more people. And I would just, you know, I would have followed a different system, because, you know, what system stands for is save yourself some time, energy, and money. And not to get biblically speaking, but y'all mentioned God a few times and how we're brought here and we're all whole, but then our families start indoctrinating us. The school system starts indoctrinating us. Our, you know, cultural starts kind of putting us in these little boxes, like giving us all these little labels. And then, you know, you join the military, and the military does their thing of stripping that. You know, I'm a 17-year-old little hillbilly from Central Alabama. Now I'm in the Army, getting everything stripped from. I'm just a kid, you know, and then they indoctrinate Army values onto me for a decade. And so we really have to understand that we need to be conditioning ourselves towards our goals, I guess, because everything around us, it's not nature versus nurture. It's nature and nurture and personal decisions that have these large impacts on who we become. And as we get older, we can make personal decisions to change our environments and things like that, and try to have a large influence and take control and responsibility of where we're going.
What's some experience that you've had with that? Like you said, you aimed for, and I'm the same as you. I mean, I've got 2 master's degrees. Not that anybody gives a shit. You know what's funny is my bachelor's degree is sitting here in a chair with clothes hanging on it. Like no shit is a fucking towel rack to me now, and it's very valuable. Don't let me shit on it, but like you said,
Yeah.
you know, there's so many systems out there that just, they want you in there. They want you a slave to a system that is, can you go punch a stamp and make somebody bigger than you money? Can you make the $1 trillion this year? That's all the system cares about. But that's what I like about us talking about what we're talking about, to be able to go, going back to my steer school time of like, bring it back into this. You are you. You can only control you and worry about you at a small fucking level. And then when you have the ability, communicate with your friends who are close to you, and do cooler things, survival. So, not that I want a zombie apocalypse, but when there's a zombie apocalypse, us veterans are the ones that are going to stick around. We're going to survive because we know how to take care of ourselves in the first couple of days. When you need water, we know how to survive there. Civilians don't. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. When you're thirsty, you're fucked. When you're hungry, you're fucked. And you don't know what grit is until your mouth is dry and your belly button's touching your backbone and shit. And us veterans will be sitting around eating our fucking lickies and chewies going, yep, this is what it is. But I don't want that, but I think that's why I say, you know, that's what could happen, is a zombie apocalypse. But that's why I'm having this podcast, and the not only books that I've done, and Kyle's doing his books and stuff, and you guys doing what you're doing. But that's why I host also with my clients almost every business day. We're doing I call them baseball and batting practices of like, if you want to hit a grand slam, you have to start earlier. You have to start with getting on base first. So how do you get on base with whatever kind of education you need or with a connection? Like even today, I wrote down on a client of mine's, I take notes on you guys, and I wrote down, oh, I need to introduce you to so-and-so because he's in cybersecurity and he's a recruiter and you need to know about him. And that's why I had Kyle on the podcast today, because everybody needs to know about him. And like Kyle said, sometimes you get in your own way of, well, for right now in survival mode, I need to, let's say, live on student loans. We've all been there, right? Like, oh, I've got 5 kids. And so it's like, I got to feed some family. I got to have easy money. And what's easy money? Education. I at least know I can take out loans and do that. But then you need help in figuring out that next step. And that is by being around other business people who can go, all right, man, Kyle, you got a great idea. You got a $1 billion idea that could go live now and be connected with profits, nonprofits. It could be local, it could be state, it could be global, it could be international, whatever. But it has to start. You have to get it started. And that's what's nice about having staff. I don't know if you guys have gotten to the point where you got staff. I've got almost 10 staffers that work for me full time. And it's nice having an idea and then going, okay, you do something. you general manager, do this. Hey, Jenny, you do this. And it's nice when you can delegate and give yourself the ability to positively worry about good things and just allow yourself to soar. And that's why with me, I'm the eagle. I'm flying around, and I've got my staff who are on the mountaintops, so that they've got eyes on me, and I've got eyes on them. And then I've got another staffer who, she's HR and bookkeeping, so she covers our 6 down there in the weeds and make sure that we're doing all the right things the right ways as far as that's concerned, payroll and stuff. Because the bigger you get, the more, like when you're $1 million company, somebody's going to try to sue you for 5 or 10 million. When you're a $10 million company, somebody's trying to sue you for 100 million. I mean, just look at Donald Trump right now. I mean, suing the former fucking president of the U.S. for a lot of money. So I'm just saying, yeah, you're going to have the evil's going to show up. If you're doing good things, the evil's showing up. That's why you got to get with guys like Andy and Kyle and these guys, of being able to go, all right, we're going through it, or we've been through it. Let's help you through this together. So, but anything else on that before we pivot to some other stuff as we get to some closing comments from you guys? I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the
one
floor
last thing, because
talk about other stuff.
I think a lot of veterans like struggle with alcohol. It's like, so especially in the Marine Corps, it's like you need to even, like, if you don't even drink, you're not like a Marine. And it's kind of like a really crappy thing that we force upon people, because alcohol consumes people's lives. And one of the things one of my master sergeants told me when I was in was, said, you'll never find the answers to your problems at the bottom of a bottle. And I think, you know, cutting out alcohol for me was a very, like, I think I'll drink, when I go to NASCAR and like go on my yearly camping trip with my boys. But like other than that, like I'm not gonna be doing it anymore, or like, doing it anywhere else. Like I'm only doing it on very special occasions. And I think just to like, I can tell you, if you cut out alcohol for 30 days, I can guarantee you'll lose weight and you'll literally go, I feel so much better. I wonder why. And like alcohol is really not that great for you. I mean, I understand if people like want to go home and decompress with like a beer or something like that, and that's like, if be on you. I would just try to get veterans, like, if you want to like really get towards the life you live, like you can't be excessive, you can't be drinking 6, 10, 12 beers an evening and think you're going to be successful, or your problems are going to go away. Maybe you do that, I don't know, once a month, every like, do what you want. But I would recommend that people, like veterans, do just like start taking care of yourself and get your health in order. Honestly, the military
Join runs. I was gonna say, when you join runs, like as you get older, right? Andy and I are 43, so we know that gray hair kicks in and it's easy to lose. Like I eat once a day now, steak and eggs once a day. It sounds so weird, but when you start doing it, you'll lose weight and lean out, right? Fast. And you're like, man, that sticks to my ribs, and I get hungry 24 hours later. So yeah, steak and eggs, people, works like a champ. But I now that I'm older, I join things like how I was talking about. I call it rolling, right? You're going to roll around with some some dudes on the map. But I do something, join some kind of something that works your body out. Like I'm living in Indiana, so we don't have giant mountains or anything like you guys do out in Colorado or whatever. But we got some trails around here that I bought a mountain bike. It's worth $1,000 to put that baby on the back of my Jeep, and I can take it out to the hill. And I'm just a couple of probably 10, 15 minutes down the road, and I'm able to take an hour every day and ride a course and just do something other than just regular old running. Do something and sign up for something that keeps you accountable. And what's nice is these days you got the mud runs and stuff like that, and Team Red, White, and Blue who are veterans who run around in Ranger panties and many other things like that. Like be around your people. Be around your people doing the shit that you know you should be doing, because when you are, you do feel a hell of a lot better about that. That's another F that's in my $5, by the way, is fitness. And we've all been through it. Get gray, lose hair, gain hair in other places that you didn't want it, and you realize that your abs are now ab, and you go, "Oh man, I haven't shaved in a while." So, but let me go do some cool shit with my boys and feel a hell of a lot better about it. So I was just gonna dance on that a little further with Kyle. But this is a special occasion, so cheers, guys. I'm drinking it slowly. It's tequila. Bourbon's good, but it dries me out.
Yeah, tequila is apparently the healthiest alcohol for you, so
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Well, you guys were talking about pharmacy earlier, so there's this a pharmacist somewhere who said, because I guess this pharmacist is now a cocktail person or something, but they said, well, although alcohol is not good for you, it's good for your soul. So there you go. Yeah. Well, I know we're coming up on closing moments here, so we don't have a hard time, but I definitely want to give you guys the floor to be able to talk about other stuff that you got going on. We've covered a lot, and I told you guys an hour and a half, 2 hours goes by fast. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit more time to focus on other things we haven't chatted about, and talk about other hats that you wear that you want the public to know. Because if other people don't know, then they can't help you and that kind of thing. So, but I'll give you the floor to talk about anything you want to talk about.
I just want to mention, I guess, that if there's any veterans out there that are just like, especially if they're in Colorado, um, if they want to put their journey and accelerate it and reach like help get them closer to financial success, there's a lot of tools that they can leverage in real estate and then some investing concepts. And if they're out here in Colorado, they should definitely be contacting me, because I could probably shave decades off their learning curve. And if they want to get in business for themselves, they don't have to go get the MBA like I did and all this college stuff. Because what's wild is it took me a couple years going to school full time to get my second master's, because just like you, I got 2 masters too. And I got my MBA in marketing, and I went to school for all that. And yeah, I learned some stuff, but it was very general and lacked specificity. And after several years of me going to school, I was constantly trying to figure out, like, how can I take this and like help me massively grow my business? And my business took off. But instead of going to school for 2.5 years, I spoke at the World Real Estate Conference in Vegas, literally about integrating marketing campaigns. And even though I went to school for like 2.5 years, getting my MBA, I could teach that gold nugget in like 1 or 2 hours, and just getting really specific to the information that's needed. A lot of people are not following the best models to get to their success, but if they could get on the right track, you could save yourself a ton of energy, time, money, and to follow the right model. And if it looks like real estate could be in that model, because I think the majority of people, especially veterans, because the VA home loan or the VA financing is so favorable. And if it's leveraged appropriately, it can really give people a step up in their business journey. But if they happen to be anywhere doing business around Colorado, I would love to connect.
Well, even if they can learn from you from afar too, I mean, like I've got, and so that's what's great about military: crawl, walk, run, fly. And we get each other. We're saying shit to each other that you go, man, Albert, I've heard this so many times before. But it would shock you when I have a civilian on a podcast too. they're like I hire people who are above me to pull me up, like Trevor and you know, book people and marketers and stuff like that, because they know their industry and I hire them. So I was in just this week. I was in, and I go to their practices and stuff so I can learn. And they may have, like Trevor, the book guy. He has a brother-in-law who's a Navy SEAL. So I'm in the room with Trevor the other day, and one of his other, well, I guess you call it one of my classmates. She's a Navy veteran, and Trevor didn't get any of the terminology. We're talking about group because he's like, well, is there anything in the military that talks about, Albert? I hear you talking about special forces groups, but then I hear you talking about Navy SEAL teams. Is there any word that means something for every level of military? And I said, yeah, tier. So like tier 3, tier 2, tier 1. And he finally got that a little bit, but like my homework, if I can flash this up real quick, I don't want you to really barely look at it, but there you go. I did some homework the other day, and it has military jargon on there, but it makes fucking sense. So if I say VA home loan, I'm at 2.3%. Joe goes, that's fucking awesome, man. But other people, veterans need to know that. Like, is that a state level benefit only in Colorado, only in Indiana? No, it's not. It's you just have to know people who get that shit done. And it was me working with veterans to get me my home loan at 2.3% at the time that I did. That's what did that. Me knowing the right people in the right place to talk about the shit that I wanted to get done in the way I want to get it done to get done. And you have to prepare yourself to make something happen. And how you make things happen is by telling people that you want it to happen. Put your vision out there so other people can see it too. That keeps them top of mind. So back to me being in Trevor's classroom the other day is, even though I'm talking with somebody who's the best at what they do in books, Trevor doesn't know. He's no civilian. He doesn't know veterans. So I know I'm saying this to people who get what the fuck I'm talking about with crawl, walk, run, and fly. Civilians do not do that. And they don't especially do the higher up I go, you mean I'm supposed to train somebody behind me and care about them and care about that my helping them is a reflection of myself. Feel better about it. I feel great that even though I started out as a E2 and then got up to O3E. Who gives a shit? I love that I get to help a Navy SEAL receive a lot of this money because he earned it. I'm sure Joe feels really good when he gets to go to somebody else's house or know that I mean, when you guys hire staff, the only time I thought although I've got a big family, the time that I thought about money the most is when I hired somebody. And I'm not talking about hired somebody to mow my yard. I'm talking about hired somebody and then I see on their social media that they've got a better car, that they're able, like I told my wife the other day, a good business will never be mad at you as a human to spend time with your kid or with your family. Like, you take a time out and have a chat with your husband or your wife or a kid for a second. Don't push your kid back going, hey, I'm on the phone with Kyle right now. Kyle will be very happy if I go, hey man, hang on a second. My kid's got to talk to me about something. Right, Kyle? So don't get in your own head and think that some big corporation is going to give two shits. Like, your kid's more important than that. So just there's being selfish, which most people believe that they are. Don't be selfish. Be self-aware that you're valuable and other people value you, and the people that value you most are around your kitchen table. So, and your battle buddies that are out there. So, not some big giant fucking corporation. What you'll find out too is that the big going back to my bell curve that I was talking about earlier, it starts out here and then you go up and then you come down. When you work for a big giant company or even the military, when you get to a certain point to where you're on the downside of that bell curve and then you get out, and then like most of us have talked about today, when you get further out on your time and your own timeline, then you look back and go, oh, they didn't care about me. The big green machine, the big blue machine, big Air Force or whatever is still going. They didn't need me. True. They'll backfill. They got plenty of money. So there's plenty of Joes out there and Andy's out there and Albert's out there they're going to find another pilot. So that's what's weird. The ecosystem is always going to replenish itself. So, but what's not going to replenish itself is your, I'm going to go back to the word selfish, your selfishness. Take care of yourself and take care of the people around you. That's all I can do real quick. So, what else you guys have going on as we're getting in our closing time frame here?
Did you want to go into?
Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
I wanted to kind of finish off with like, if I could finish off with one of the, I have like a short story book that I'm writing, and I want to like just tell you guys one of those stories I've written, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback from it. So if that would be, it would be a cool way to end. To be honest with you.
There you go. Fire away. Go ahead, Kyle. Fire away.
I think it was,
Okay. Okay? I got you now. Yeah, it's great hearing everything that you all have going on, because it mirrors a lot of the stuff that I currently have. I did the corporate route. I went and got the master's degrees. They're sitting in the garage somewhere now, so I understand it being a coat rack. Uh, I've, I've got probably 5 or 6 half-written manuscripts laying around the house in different stages that I've been a writer my entire life. It's my outlet. Another book full of nothing but ideas that I just haven't sat down to actually dedicate time to. So I'm hoping to work on those things here in the near
Text me
future.
too, Andy, by the way, and anybody else out there who wants book stuff, just email me, and my email address will be in the links below or somewhere in here. But Andy, you've got my phone number now. Good.
Absolutely, and thank you. I'll definitely be taking you up on that. It really just a lot of community building right now is kind of where I'm at in my life. We're trying to build our brand around our candy store, so we're expanding into manufacturing of our. We were very fortunate with when we bought the company. We got a 100-year-old caramel corn recipe that people love. We spent over a year putting together the perfect packaging that preserves the quality and freshness. So now we're moving into manufacturing. We're moving into opening additional stores. In fact, we open our second location on the 1st of April. We're moving into bringing back the ice cream trucks from when I was a kid that go through the neighborhood, and the community is excited about that. Still very active politically. Did not win my campaigns, but learned something from each one of them, and just being of service to my community. I live in a community of about 40,000. The island's about 70,000. An amazing, just one of a kind. I'm sure everybody feels that way about where they live, but an amazing one of a kind place that I love, and the people are just, they're that top tier kind of people that you want to be a part of. And so being very, very active. In fact, tomorrow we have our candy store sponsoring a Mario Kart tournament, which is going to be a lot of fun. Spending time with my family, making sure to focus on my own spirituality, my own growth, because it's not done. And what I would say to veterans that are starting their journey or starting at that bell curve is, one, you're going to be okay, and two, enjoy the ride. Just enjoy it, because it's not over, and there's more things to come, and there's a lot of great things to happen. And if you can visualize and manifest what you want for you, then you'll find your definition of success. And I'm really grateful for being able to meet each of you today. I hope to stay in contact with you. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Albert. It's been wonderful.
It's a pleasure. Definitely love having you guys. Joe, far away.
No, I was just agreeing with him. That's all. Appreciate you having us on.
Oh, definitely. My pleasure, man. Definitely. Told you 2 hours goes by fast.
Yeah, I was very blown away.
Even one-on-one, so I'm trying to get around to all you guys. So Kyle, fire away.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like say, like, about the whole. I forgot what I was going to say about Andy just said something about, but like I think just in general, like this whole idea is like people like following like your passions, following What you My advice for people, I should say, I shouldn't really give advice to people, but follow and do what you're good at and potentially then do the passion afterwards. Because sometimes you need to pay the bills first. You know, if honestly, if you're the veteran aspect and you haven't talked to Albert yet, you know, if you get that 100%, dude, like you basically just made your income. And like, if you at that point take all the money, extra money, you buy some small crappy house or whatever it is, I can almost probably guarantee if you work on yourself for the next 5 to 10 years, you're gonna be successful. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like whatever that looks for you, whether you want to write music, write books, you know, own a candy store, own a real estate empire, you know, help veterans, do therapy, you know, make things, build stuff, shop wood. I don't know what you want to do. Um, but I really think that you all get told, and I shouldn't say told, maybe you see, maybe you feel it, maybe you hear it, but we all have like this thing that we consistently see inside of our minds or hear. And that's kind of like what leads me into my story is I call it like the universe is calling. And I wrote it down. I have it written down. So I'm just going to look down at it and tell you. So there's a village in Switzerland that was recently discovered by researchers. Here in the village, there's electricity, running water, everything modern society has besides the internet. One of the most interesting aspects of the researchers saw when they first entered the village was the large wooden phones, ominous, tall, and dark. Yet everyone's phone was unique. Some phones were covered in stones, some phones were covered in moss, some phones were covered in metal. Researchers saw most of the young children and teenagers struggling with to keep their phones by their sides, while almost none of the adults would drag their phones around with them. The researchers were curious and asked people, what was the purpose of the phones? Everyone was said to them, I was given the phone. I was given the phone when I was very young, and I was told to be ready for the call. Upon further inspection, there was a simple inscription on it, PURPOSE, purpose. This started the researchers asking questions, asking people why most of them didn't have their phones with them. They said all kinds of things. I don't have the time to bring it with me. I don't have the money to maintain the phone. I don't have any relationships when I have the phone when I'm around. You know, I have to get up early. I have to spend extra money. I have to stop going on so many dates, and the list just keeps going on and on and on. You couldn't take your phones to the club because people would laugh at you. You couldn't take your phone on a date because people wouldn't date you. You couldn't take this to your job because you would have to stay late and get up early if I did that. And the researchers were interested by this. And that was a very common story I heard from a lot of people. So they saw a few people with their phones and they said, why do you have your phones? And everyone else has stopped carrying the burden of their large phone. Why keep going? And they simply said, because the call told me to keep going. The researchers were perplexed. They never heard of the phones actually ringing before. These unique individuals continued. When I would stay late at my job, and I started working on my dream. These days, when I got the most calls, I would hear the call, and the person wouldn't say hello or can I talk to. All they heard was keep going, click. There would be times when they would miss out on going on dates. They said they had too many dates to go on, so they had to choose wisely when dating. Otherwise, people with their phones were usually people with their phones were the only people that would say yes to go on dates with them. These dates would last for hours, and what do you know? Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Keep going. Another fellow told him that on weekends he would work on his dream instead of going to the club and drinking. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Keep going. The researchers did this for many weeks, and eventually they found somebody who they did interview who didn't have their phone, who now does have their phone. And the guys like, so like what changed? And he goes, I've been going on so many dates with people I do not like. I've been working at a job, but I did not like the job. I've been going to clubs to find nothing but a bill, which I did not like. And one day I decided to not do those things. I started working on something I have put off for a long time. My dreams, my aspirations, my goals. I stayed home one night late and the phone rang and I dusted it off and answered the phone and the researcher blurted out, and I told you to keep going? And they were like, no, not at all. I told you you were at a job I called you, but you were at a job you hated. I called you when you were on dates with people you hated. I called you when you were broke and at clubs you hated. This is God. I was calling you to remind you about your purpose. My phone calls were my voice I gave you when you were very young. This was when you dreamed the biggest dreams. And the call ended with this: get started. The phone represents that little voice in the back of your head that's always telling you to keep going. The voice of what you truly want to do with your life. We let other people become our voice. The saying goes, be the guardian at the gate of your mind, because if you are not, somebody else will. The call represents your dream. when will you pick up the call?
Good stuff, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. So many people out there. I mean, for the people who are still in service, I mean, the people that, going back to my bell curve real quick, so many senior leaders have told me that they wish they would have gotten out at like 10 years when they were still young. They're like, hey, man, 10 years of military service is fucking plenty. Anything after that, you're just looking at false narratives. You're just being fucking lied to. And they said it didn't matter if it was, you know, W3 to W5 with 160th or 05 to 06 to 1 star. They said every hill, you get to that hill, then you get to that hill finally and go, oh, fuck, that hill sucks. Maybe when I get my 05 or 06 or battalion or brigade command or this level of leadership, then everything's going to be hunky-dory. And then they finally get out and same thing. They tell me the same shit. They're like, hey, man, you know, I'm 05, 06, 1 star, 2 star. I wish I would have gotten out at 10 years and just gotten the wisdom to just move forwards on my own life, because by then, like Kyle just mentioned, folks, they missed out on all their kids' lives, especially GWA era. Fuck, man. 20-year war that still is somehow not over, but is over. Because who said so? So, and now you look up and go, man, my kids are heading into college. And I mean, I'm doing that. And I'm sure that probably you guys are doing that too. My oldest son, who's 18 or about to be 18 in April, he's heading into college, and he was heading into 4th grade when, pre-K. He was 4 years old when I was heading to Afghanistan, and that's when I made my decision of like, I need to be back in my house. And like we said today, guys, it ain't gonna be easy. The people who have gray hair, they have it for a reason. The people who have scars have it for a reason. But no path is going to be perfect. Is it perfect for you? Is really the end all. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Anything else before we'll do some behind the scenes stuff and we'll keep recording, but I'll have Jeannie have the people go, okay, cut here, and that kind of thing. But anything else before we go do some behind the scenes for the next couple of minutes? All right, guys, appreciate you. Like I said, we're going to have all your information. You guys are going to email that to me, and we'll make sure that the production team puts your information you want us to have out in front of public. I want to be on your websites. I want to be in your circles. I want you to be in my website, my circles. So we're doing a lot of updates and upgrades to our system in April. So if you don't see something on my website or something, it's because we're changing things around to new websites and new forms, because the way of keeping in contact with clients these days, Joe will probably tell you this the best. It's way faster. I mean, you got people are out there death scrolling on videos didn't exist on Facebook 5 years ago, and so now you have to just change with the time. So we're doing that. But I appreciate you guys. Like I said, we'll go behind the scenes for a little bit and do a bit around the room, talk to each other a little bit more. But for everybody else out there, make sure you connect with these guys. If you're in their area, connect with them. If you're online, of course you are, connect with them. And we look forward to doing more good things and hearing great stories. So appreciate all you guys.